WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. I love the message of our next guest. You and I were invited to a picnic, Robin, and it was for the, don't tell me. It was for the Craniofacial, what is the name of the group again? Craniofacial Association. Okay. And for those of you who don't know what that is or who they are, this is a group of people, yes, that have an organization for children who have been born with some kind of a facial deformity, a skeletal facial. And the truth is, as many surgeries as these kids go through, they're probably never going to have a look. There was a movie that came out at the end of last year. What was it called? Wonder?
Wonder.
Yeah,
yes.
Wonder. And so these children are born, and they're never going to have a face that you might consider to be normal. And I don't like to use that word, but I just wanted to help you understand what I'm talking about. If you are one of those children, or you are the parent of one of those children, you know this better than I even do. But Robin and I were invited to this picnic. The theme of the picnic was acceptance. And the message was simple, that you are a beautiful person. Just you have to accept what God has given you, and then your world will be so much better, right? Mm-hmm. That's just a wonderful message. Daniel Miller gets that. Daniel wrote this book. It's a beautiful book, and if there's anything in your life that you feel like is not as good as it could be, maybe acceptance will help in every way. Embracing people and things as they are is the subtitle. Daniel is, in addition to being a wonderful writer, he's also a fine artist, a poet. You know, that makes sense that he's a poet, though. Poets usually think this way, right?
Exactly.
He's the founder of the California Institute of Real Estate Education. Well,
he wears many hats.
That came out of left field, huh? He's an investment advisor. Oh, that comes from the same field as the real estate, right? A champion senior tennis player.
That's pretty amazing.
Anyway, the book is
He's
called
in good shape.
The Gift of Acceptance. Yeah, I got to do that. I have to. No, I don't want to accept that.
Yeah.
I got to get in shape. I don't have to accept that, do I? I can fix that.
No,
Daniel Miller, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Larry and Robin. Nice to be here, and that's a great story that you shared. And it's so true. You know, with acceptance, I like to say, you know, when we accept what is, it allows us to discover what might be. You know, it allows us to see the choices that we have regardless of the circumstances we're in. And the children you're describing, it's just remarkable that they're able to do that. No question about it.
Do you know, I wonder how many of those parents were sort of, you described yourself as a compulsive controller, right?
Very much so. My first book was on letting go of control.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was sort of to help myself as well as others.
Yeah, and I wonder how many of those parents, when they have a child who has a craniofacial or anything else that you just have to accept, I wonder if they help that child accept who they are, and in doing so realize, oh my gosh, this is a lesson for myself.
Sure, no question about it. You know, I have 3 children, and I've really had to learn, first of all, they're each unique in their own way, and second of all, by being able to accept them, I mean, not trying to overmanage their lives, as, you know, many of us are prone to do, it allows them to, I believe, to fulfill the life they were meant to lead. It allows them to have resiliency, independence, you know, and things like that.
If you're a senior tennis player, can I take a guess that your children are grown up?
You sure can. That's a very good guess. I'll be 75 in September.
Oh, well, good for you.
And I just played in a national tournament last month and did pretty well.
Gosh.
It's my love and my passion, and you know, it's healthy, but you know, I've had to come to acceptance with my tennis because I kept hurting my back because, you know, I'm very competitive and I'm agile, so I'll go for balls that I really shouldn't be going for at my age, so I kept throwing out my back.
Okay.
I had to recognize that, so now I play just doubles, you know, so that's a limitation coming with age and whatnot, that I needed to accept. It took some pain before I was able to accept it. And that's what I think what happens a lot of times with acceptance is that we often have to go through that pain of non-acceptance before we have the awareness, what we need to do.
And you had firsthand experiences throughout your life. You've had to experience hardships, and then you've had to overcome them, and that's very difficult to have such a positive attitude and be successful.
Yes, and part of the reason I'm writing is because I had to have about 5 wake-up calls before I saw the light, so to speak. And I don't believe that you have to, and that's one of the reasons I'm really writing on control and acceptance. And what I've ultimately found out that the best antidote for this compulsion to control that most of us or many of us have is acceptance. When we accept things and people as they are, we don't no longer have a need to try to control them.
It's almost like forgiveness in a way, in that you don't have to forgive and you don't have to accept, but you will be so much happier if you do.
That's right. It definitely forgiveness and compassion are large parts of it. I have a chapter in the book about accepting our parents. Well, we have stories of children that had horrendous circumstances as they were being raised, and if they were able to forgive and accept, and that was no question was a challenge, they share how that freed them from the bonds, So acceptance can be very freeing, no matter how difficult it is.
There was a story out of Japan after that tsunami hit, and there was a young lady, and she was the only one left out of her family. Everybody in her family got killed by that tsunami except for her. And I remember listening to her in the interview, and she was completely in line with this philosophy that you're expressing. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what it takes to just accept that you're the one left, and but she seemed to be doing exactly what you're describing.
Yeah, some people are absolutely amazing how they live in grace. I have a story in the book about he's now a good friend that was just really clobbered in a terrible motorcycle accident. To this day, 5 years later, he has to walk with a cane, and he went through so much. And he was saying is, Danny, if I don't live in acceptance each and every day, I'm not going to get by. I need to have a positivity, to do that. And not everybody can do that, and no question, it takes courage. But speaking about the woman in Japan, the acceptance is a lot in line with, I think, the Eastern philosophy. Is the Buddhists, what they say, and I'm just going to sort of paraphrase, is the difference between accepting what it is and what we would like things to be, that space is where our suffering lies. Is in the space between what we want and expect and what really is. And with acceptance, it's my belief that acceptance closes that space. And by closing that space, it reduces the suffering. It doesn't remove it, but it reduces it.
Sometimes people are betrayed by other people. How do you help them build up that resilience and not be bitter for that? Because that could be a devastating factor.
There's no question about it. And I learned that the hard way. I was betrayed by a business partner about 30 years ago, and and I just sort of went at it with lawsuits, and I was determined. Looking back, it's almost humorous. I was determined to make a dishonest man honest, which was a total folly, because we can't change the basic way people are, So, but with betrayal, and obviously it's a challenge, but acceptance is a choice that we can make or not make. And what I mean by acceptance, it goes into the meaning of true acceptance. And true acceptance doesn't mean that we are condoning or excusing someone's conduct or behavior. What it means, though, is we are looking at the underlying reality of it, as we say, the truth without all the makeup. And we're trying to do so without negative feelings, such as, resentment and anger. So when I speak of acceptance, I'm speaking of what I would call a detached, even-keeled type of acceptance. And when we can reach that point, whether it's betrayal or something less than betrayal, what it does, it allows us to see the choices that we then have, or the paths that we can then take that will be best for us. But if we don't get to that point, we're going to be drawn into the battle,
Right.
like I was with this case 35 years ago.
So, what is your advice regarding how to distinguish between something that you should accept and something that you shouldn't settle for? You always, like if you're the parent of a child and he's got a job and you know he could do better. You don't want to say, well, accept that. You're going to be a hamburger flipper forever. No offense to any hamburger flippers out there. It's just...
I get you, Larry. I get you. I know I've been there, but here's my take on it, okay? Is that's what I call parental omniscience. I think as we parents, we most of the time feel we know what's best for our children. I've had experiences with my children that the way I studied, in school, I expected my younger daughter to. And I kept pushing her to, whereas she'd be laying in bed listening to loud music, and waiting to cram, and, those types of things. And after one time when I was pushing her, 12 years old, her name is Lana, she looked up at me and she says, "Daddy, I'm different than you. I process things differently."
Oh my gosh, she's smart.
And I was just blown away because it was so truthful. She's so different, and it turns out we didn't know at the time, she has attention deficit disorder and OCD. So she was really different. She was struggling, and she needed the urgency of cramming before she could focus. So, yeah, I really get it. It's really a tough one, and we have to find that balance as parents between not making sure we're not over-managing their lives and at the same time allowing them to make their mistakes so they can learn by them.
Sometimes people will complain about faults that they find in others, but is that sometimes they're really looking at the other person's faults as their own faults, and they're using them as a mirror, and they're not accepting that that's what's wrong with the person doing the looking?
I know I do that. Yeah. I have found that I have done that, and here's the sort of the reverse of that, which I think is true, is as I've learned to accept others better, I've learned to accept myself better.
Oh, that's profound.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true, and it's the same thing like we see in others you have in yourself. When I'm able to accept unpleasantries or things that I don't like or certain habits of others, I'm more compassionate with myself. None of us are perfect. We know that. We're all trying our best, I think, most of us.
I think accepting other people is probably the strongest thing we can use acceptance for, and probably the one we need the most work on. I mean, we've all had issues with, I don't know, when you get older, maybe you have an issue with how young. Oh, here, a perfect example. We work at the mall. The radio station at the mall. Outside the window, we see the kids going back and forth all the time. So the young girls all wear these ripped jeans. I mean, they're ripped all over the place.
Yeah, they look horrible.
And the young boys, they wear their pants down below their butt.
Oh, I know.
And so
my son was doing that 20 years ago. I couldn't believe it. I remember taking him shopping at the mall, and he was buying pants that were 4 inches, too large of a waist.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Here's the thing. I guess is the perspective is it's not going to kill them, not going to hurt them.
Yes,
where do we draw the battles? What's important, really important, what's not? And to me, it's the ethics, it's the family values, it's the family connection. And having that bond with our children where. One thing with acceptance, one of the gifts of acceptance I write about is the gift of connection with our loved ones, our children, our family.
Awesome, yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, when there's a trust that's established, and I'd rather hear things from them rather than have them, clam up.
That's absolutely right. Robin has two beautiful children. How old are your two children?
They're 39 and 41.
So they're adults too. Okay.
And your child is wonderful.
My son. Okay, but let me take him down the path of TJ wanting to shave his head.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So when Robin's son TJ was a young man, maybe in his teens, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to shave his head.
Like 16.
Or maybe he did shave his head. I can't remember.
Oh, he did.
And Robin was so upset about it. And I said, he's the best kid. You can't ask for a better kid than him.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Let him do that. We all go through that hair thing, you know?
Yeah, I never thought of
Sure.
that. And then I thought about it, and that was good advice that Larry gave me.
Yes. Don't you think, as parents, there's like the different things that we did when we were young, maybe the wild times or the things we look back on now, that we're so worried that our children are going to fall into that too? So we
Yeah,
get like
exactly.
Yeah.
this overprotective, but hey, we came out okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I love the idea. I mean, when you look around, when you're with somebody who can't accept. Let's say, can I use an example that hopefully
Sure.
doesn't ruffle any feathers? But let's say I have a gay friend, okay?
Right.
And I have another friend who's very, very uncomfortable around gay men, okay?
Right.
And he's not accepting him for his lifestyle. I'm not
Right.
going to say choices, but just the way he is. He's not accepting him. So acceptance would change everything. It would loosen him up. It would make him happier, I think. I think so. I don't know.
No, I think it would, and he has a challenge, and one of the obstacles to acceptance is fear. He may be fearful, and I define fear. There's an acronym for fear is future events already ruined, FEAR, or false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
So he may be in that position that somehow, if he was to accept your gay friend, that he's maybe fearful of something about himself. I don't know, just speculating, but it's some people are not accepting, and when they're not accepting, then they're drawn into being tied down, being restricted, not being free.
Can we talk about? I was just curious if we could talk about the opposite. Maybe the times when you shouldn't be accepting. Let's say again, I'm going to use a kid in school. He wants to be something other than a sports person, an artist. He wants to be an artist, okay? And he's not really that good at it, but he wants to be real bad. And the art teacher says to him, accept it. You don't have that talent. Whoa, no. I would tell him, no, don't accept it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's got to be devastating to the young man. When I was in fourth grade, the teacher played the piano, and I would sit in front of the room. I just remember this to this day, and would sing along. She stopped playing, and then she said, "Danny, I can't play with your singing. Do you mind going to the back of the room?" And Larry, to this day, I'm unable to carry a tune. It affected me so much.
See?
That and my wife says, "Danny, your voice has a great timbre. You should be a good singer." But things like that. When I talk about the gift of acceptance, it's a reciprocal gift. When we are accepting of others, we are giving to them. Think about it. How
Yes, you're right.
when someone accepts you, Larry or Robin, as you are, whatever it may be, quirks you might have or habits that you may have. When people just accept you as you are, don't you feel you can just really be yourself with them?
You are right. That's absolutely true.
It's a gift. It's a gift both ways. We're giving to ourselves and we're giving to the others as well.
Dan, when we are told that when we're kids that fairy tales aren't real, that there are no such things as magic words, and then I hear a story like that, there are magic words. I mean, when she told you that was like an evil spell, almost.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, but she could have done the exact opposite, and she could have said, "Oh, you've got such a great way of singing," and she could have accepted you. She could have accepted you, and then that would have made you could be the next. Who's that guy I like, Robin, that sings?
Oh, Jason Moran's.
I like him too.
Oh, the other guy.
The guy that is really almost opera.
I can't think of his name.
We're having a hard time with our memory today or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Ed Sheeran. No, not Ed Sheeran.
No, the guy with the dark hair.
All right.
He's got like an opera kind of a singing voice.
Oh, gee.
Never mind. We're using
don't
up all
know. I can't remember. We use.
Daniel Miller is our guest. Robin and I try to figure out who the singer is I'm thinking about.
Aging. People have a hard time accepting that they're aging, whether you're the person that's aging or your parent. I know I was out with my mom, and she's like 20 some years older than me. And then we did something, during the day. And then I said, oh, okay, well, let's go do something, this thing at nighttime. And she said, well, no, I'm X number of years old. I can't do all that in one day. I have to rest. And that's kind of like a wake-up call for me, because I remember her. I mean, she's still agile and everything, but sometimes, we have to just stop and rest and do things. And I've noticed that in myself, too. Sometimes I can't keep going. I have to take a little break.
Sure. Have to be accepting of that too, no question about it.
It's a very profound idea, really, to look at acceptance as a gift. I love what you've said, and you're getting really good reviews on Amazon. Do you have a website?
I do. DanielAMiller.com, and I have about 70 articles on control and acceptance on my website that your listeners are free to read if they like. And then the book's on Amazon and on Apple iTunes and Barnes & Noble. And I have an audio book on audible.com for this book. And I found a great narrator, so I'm very pleased with that as well. But thank you. The reviews have been coming in good. It's very rewarding. I'm financially secure. I have been for many years. This is really my way of trying to give back and share some of my experiences and some of my failures. And, hopefully there's a commonality, and I believe there is, particularly with acceptance. I think in this world we just need more of acceptance. And the theme I have is, trying to make acceptance go viral.
Oh, I like that. I like it.
And does it help people when they have a God that they believe in, or they have a huge belief system?
Well, I think, whether it's a religion or a higher power or a faith in something, greater than ourselves or a divine presence, I think what it allows people to do is to trust life more, to trust that they will be able to take care of themselves, will be guided, when in difficult circumstances. So, yeah, it's help. I personally feel we don't have to get into traditional religion, but we have to have some faith or belief that there's something much greater than we are.
Well, ultimately, I guess if I could go out on a limb here, if you did not believe in a God and you were going to use acceptance toward the end of your life, you would say, I'm accepting it. I'm dying and I'm going to be gone. Somebody who has a religion might say, well, I'm dying and I'm going to move on. Those would be two different things, but you have to accept it to kind of let go of the stress that it's causing.
Right. Yeah, I sometimes feel that if we're not, able to be able to feel that we're going to be able to accept our death, then we're going to have trouble accepting our limitations or of aging, the limitations that come with aging in that period of struggle.
When we're younger, though, we have so much to look forward to. And then when we look back on all that we went through, it makes you wonder why we bothered to be worried so much. Because
it's from the pain and experience of not knowing better. They have studies, which I refer to the book, is they have studies of elders and showing that they're actually happier than when people are younger. And the key factor in why they're happier is they are more accepting of the things they can't control or change. So acceptance plays a very powerful part, in I'd say our overall happiness, and serenity.
I love the conversation. I knew I would, too. When I looked at the information, Dan, regarding this conversation, the book, The Gifts of Acceptance, I just knew that this was going to be something I would enjoy. Thank you for being on the air. Where are you?
Thank you, Larry.
Did I ask you, where are you? Are you in California?
Yeah, I'm in Valley Village. It's a Studio City, Burbank area. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank
out
you for
here.
getting up early
My pleasure.
to do this. Good luck with the book. And I think you're going to help a lot of people grasp something that's already within reach that they just never decided to do that. So.
Right. It's a practice. Practice makes better, and that's same with acceptance. Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Robin. Really, I enjoyed it. You're a great host, and enjoyed the humor part, too. It's fun.
Thank you, Dan. All right, we will
Okay.
take a little break. Be right back.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440. Our tractor services include bush hog, disking, front end loader, box blade, and stump grinding. We also have zero-turn mowers for the smaller paddocks, aisleways, fence rows, and lawn care. Fence row spraying is also available for weed control. We are licensed and insured. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352